in Honduras. I had a great conversation up at Robert's outside on Friday afternoon. Got to talk with Mike and Karen and Robert about, you know, what is happening and what little part our church has in what's happening in Honduras. In my mind, Mike and Karen aren't just any missionaries that we're supporting, but they're ours. They are from Hall County. They came out of our community and they came out of our church. They were members of our church. I think they have a very compelling story. They may not call it a compelling story, but it is to me. Here in Hall County, Mike was a teacher at West Hall. Karen was a counselor down at the Center for Hope and Healing, and they went with the Gainesville First mission team once, I guess it's maybe 10 years ago, close to 10 years ago, to Orphanage Emmanuel. And they felt something there and they went back for 2 weeks. And then another time they went back for 2 weeks. And then another time they went back for 2 months. And they felt that they weren't being called to ministry there. So they took their skills that they have, they sold their home, they left their jobs, and they have been in Guamaca.
Yeah.
Yeah, was that pretty good?
Good.
For almost 8 years. And we're just so happy that they are here and that they are going to tell us a little bit about how their ministry is developing. Coincidentally, every family, if you read your emails that come from the church, every family is being asked to give an extra $60.45 as a special mission offering. And that amount of money from each family would pay for the basic expenses of the 3 mission families that we support, 2 in Honduras, the Madsens and the Skinners, and then Dave and Jen Cox in Romania. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike and Karen, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Linda. Robert, can we do a share on the PowerPoint? Oh, yep.
Click share.
Got it. Okay.
There you go.
Now, hang on. There. Does everybody see that? Nobody not. Okay. We want to thank you all for allowing us this opportunity to come before you and share with us our mission down in Honduras. You are the ones that have sent us down there. You are the ones that are sponsoring us. And it's been a phenomenal past 7 years. When we went down and started out, we went down with Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him and he will make your path straight. That we have leaned on very heavily for the last 7 years. And it is very true. You lean on him, he will open the doors for you and he'll provide what you need when you need it. Not before, but what you need when you need it. Just an update for those that are not familiar with Orphanage Emmanuel in Honduras, and that is where we're at. It's located in Guayamaca, which is basically right in the center of Honduras. Tegucigalpa, the capital, is south of there, about an hour and a half, and San Pedro Sula, which is northwest of there, up towards the coast, is about probably a 4-hour drive, 5-hour drive away. So it's sort of centrally located up in the mountains at about 3,000 feet. Honduras is a very poor country. You've probably heard from the government in a newspaper of the Northern Triangle. And basically that's the area in Central America where most of the drug cartels are, most of the gangs, most of the problems, most of the poverty. And that encompasses Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. There's about 5 million people in Honduras. Education level typically goes to the 6th grade. The government is trying to do it to 12th grade, but they don't have the resources or the money. So most of the kids get to 6th grade and they drop out. We can't force them to stay in school once they reach 6th grade. The coronavirus, as the United States and the rest of the world has been hit with it, so has Honduras. Unfortunately, being a third world country, they do not have the medical resources to take care of it or contain it very well. What they've done is they have, each person is given an ID number in Honduras, and what they've done over a 2-week period is allow you to go into town one day during those 2 weeks based on your ID number, the last digit. And you can go to the pharmacy, the grocery store, and the bank and get your necessities and then go back home for the week. But that only works in the city. It doesn't work up in the countryside or the mountain regions because most of those people live from day to day on a daily basis. They have to get in. David and Lydia Martinez founded Orphanage Emmanuel about 28 years ago in Honduras. They started out with about 12 children, and as of today, we are at 460 some. A couple of years ago, we maxed out at almost 500, and I think 40 or 50, somewhere in that range. But with an influx of the older children moving out, we're back down to 460. Now that is babies until the children are 21 years old. On the campus, basically it's 1,200 acres. The front 300 to 400 acres is pretty much flat. The rest of it's all mountainous. But on that 300 to 400 acres, we've got 48 buildings. It's housing for the boys and the girls, cafeteria, gymnasium, all the necessities to basically take care of a small community. Staff, their staff is about 30 plus on campus that reside. And there's about 30 plus that come in from the outside as workers, and they're referred to as TIAs, most of them. And they're ladies that work in the houses with the children during the day or in the kitchen or in the homes at night. And there are also workers that come in to do the wood shop and the mechanic shop and things like that. It is a Christian environment. The Bible is taught. There's many things revolve around the Bible and the Christian environment. And we're continually trying to share that Bible with them. Now, not all of them are Christian. There's probably about maybe 60%, 70% at the most, because you got to remember, not all the children have come in here as babies. Some of them have come in as their 8, 10, 12, 13-year-olds, and they're already somewhat set in their ways. So we're working with them, and hopefully things do rub off. They can leave when they reach 21. Now, some of them opt to stay, and if they do, then after 21, David has basically signed up with a contract with them, a work contract that he'll provide them with housing and food and a stipend per month if they agree to do certain jobs and no discipline issues. If anything like that goes on, it's great. If it doesn't go on, then they're asked to leave. But most of the kids do leave when they reach 21. Most of them have families on the outside. The families just could not afford to take care of them. Okay, the vocational school. Karen and I went down there. My expertise is teaching vocational, building construction and woodworking. And what I did was basically for the first 2 years that I was down there, I helped them put together their maintenance program for 2 years. And I trained boys to take care of their maintenance issues on campus with the 48 buildings. That was the electrical, the plumbing, masonry, whatever. And that program is ongoing now with their own plumbing room organized. And so I've got 3 boys in there taking care of that at the time. The vocational school we started about 3 years ago. It took 2 years to build the building. The building itself was donated by an individual out of Atlanta. It's a 5,000 square foot building. And inside of that, we're housing the Carpinteria program that the Honduran government calls it. And it is sponsored by INFOP, which is the vocational arm of Honduras. They send a teacher in. We have to provide the facilities, the equipment, the materials. They just provide the teacher. And so the teacher comes in and is working with the kids. The program itself is opened up to both boys and girls. We have 2 classes, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And when those children are not in the morning class in the lab area, they're over at the high school doing their academics for the vocational level. Our intention here is to not only give them a certificate for the vocational training when they graduate, but also to give them a vocational high school certificate. Yeah. Let's see, what else am I missing? That should take care of that. Okay. This last 2020 year was changeable, as is here with the coronavirus. We started out fine in January and February. I had the kids in there working on projects that needed to be done in the lab area. And that was basically building lofts for student projects, putting pipe racks together for our angle iron and metal, and also building 24 workbench drawers for each of the 12 benches we have for each end, so that each child has their own work tools in their area. And everything I did basically was drawn up on the whiteboard up at top, dimensioned and given to them. Now, the lofts, did the loft, they got the first one built and we measured it and it wasn't correct to the dimensions, so we made them take it apart and start over again. Now, they did that 3 times, but they really learned. The next loft they built was perfect the second time around. So it's a learning process, and I try to work them through that. Hey, when they leave here and they got their vocational training, whatever they're building for the person that's buying it, they're paying for it. So what they want is what they're paying for. So you have to provide that. You can't just do what you want and then expect them to buy it. So it's a whole learning process that we're going through. We also brought in early February, 4,000 board feet of lumber. That's approximately what the kids will use up during that school year time. There's 2 classes. And it's all wet cut from Honduras. It's mostly pine. And we'll air dry it outside, stack it up and air dry it. And it takes about 2.5 months. And then once that's finished, then we'll bring it back in. The girls are involved too. They're moving the lumber, they're bringing it in, they're wire brushing it off. And then outside they cut off the 2 ends and then termite treat it. We have a horrendous problem with termites down there. And anything that's built in wood usually lasts about 3 years. And it has to be rebuilt again. And that's furniture, that's wood trim, whatever. And that's why I picked the woodworking program, because there's a big need for woodworkers. That's where the most employment is. The carpinteria class started up towards the middle of February with the infop teacher. And that class proceeded for about till the end of March. And then the government shut it down, pulled all the teachers out, and that includes the public school system too, and shut it down because of the coronavirus. But in that month and a half time, we did get some learning in there. We started out with 24 children in the first class. 4 of those were girls, and it was basically hand tools. There was an advanced class that came in from last year that they went into the more of the machine ends of it, working on the equipment, woodworking equipment, and building projects, tables, bathroom cabinets, things like that. While that was going on, we're also involved. We have 2 things going on right now with Gainesville and Orphanage Emmanuel, and we're reaching out into Guayamaca now. Guayamaca is about 30,000 people. There's about maybe 15, 18,000 in the city. The remaining 18 are up in the mountains, and there's villages. And the mountainous region is very remote. The government will supply a teacher up there, but the village has to put together a schoolroom and to house these kids. And the villages don't have the money to do that. So working with Guayamaca and Gainesville first, we built the first school feeding center up in for one of the farthest villages. And it's basically 16 foot by 30 foot. We outfitted it with desks for the kids. The government brought the teacher in, and that's grades 1 through 6th. We also use the building as a feeding center. Guayamaca has an NGO program that we're working with, that they push food up to these different feeding centers that's donated through Saputo and other USAID and other organizations to help feed these people and sustain them. During that time, the first building that Gainesville First helped pay for was finished, and it was dedicated. That lower left picture is the mayor with the turquoise shirt on, and his wife's right next to him. Sandra, his wife, is a person that is helping with these feeding school centers, develop them and build them, and working with her very closely. We're also looking at building sheep pens next to the feeding centers in their proximity. The sheep, and we didn't know this at the time, but sheep reproduce every 90 days, and they either have twins or triplets. So if you're able to give them 2 or 3 females with a male, at an end of a year's time, you're in the 20 to 30 range. And if they do that again the following year, you're exponentially multiplying them. And what we're after here is for protein, hide, fur, wool, whatever, but to help these people become more sustainable on themselves. So that's another program that we're looking at to get going with hopefully some Sunday school involvement. The NGO that I belong to in Guayamaca, we met in early April, middle of April, because of the food situation up in the mountains. Because of the coronavirus and everything was being shut down, all the businesses were shut down too, so there was no employment. These people live from a day-to-day basis, basically, and the people up there were starving. Basically, they were just living on coffee, drinking coffee during the day. So the NGO got together, and I talked with Gainesville. Out of the vocational program, we moved over $10,000. There were 3 other organizations that contributed $10,000. And what we did with that is we bought 100,000 pounds of food. Now, what we did was we had that all shipped in to Orphanage Emmanuel because we volunteered with the kids' help to package all this food into 24-pound bags. So we had it bringing in by trucks. We loaded it into the classroom. We left it sit for 2 weeks. And then we started on the assembly program. But these are the kids basically pulling all the stuff in. And as soon as we got done, we had them shower, wash their clothing, and sanitize, basically. Whoops, go the other way. There we go. Now, in the middle of that slide, you'll see some US aid packets, some corn, some beans, some rice, some sugar, salt, lard. That basically composed the 24-pound bag. Now, that 24-pound bag up in the mountains will feed a family of 5 for 2 weeks. And the kids, we set them up in an assembly line with the benches in the vocational school, cleared all the equipment off to one side. And usually every day we'd have 30-some children in there helping with assembling of these bags. The kids were really enthused the first week. All of a sudden, by the end of the first week, they realized that that was a lot of work. And so what we did is I started bringing some pictures down of the food being distributed up in the mountains. And all of a sudden, they seen the poverty level and they realized what they were doing was something that was needed and very worthwhile. So the whole attitude just changed right around. We ended up packing together out of those 100,000 pounds of food, 6,000 bags of food. And we stored them in the vocational building and in the classroom as we got them used up. As the trucks would come in, the kids did not deliver the food out to the mountains. We had volunteers from the city coming in with their pickup trucks. We would load the pickup trucks up with whatever they were taking, 60, 100, 200 bags, whatever. And they would take them up into the mountains and distribute them. That went on for about 2 months. Thank you. These are some of the people that were getting the bags of food up in the mountains and in Guayamaca. It is poverty. And they were totally dependent upon what we were doing there for that 2-month period. Okay, after the 2-month period, we went back to the NGO committee and talked to them if there was a need for more food to be done again. And there was not. Because of what we were able to do for that 2 months that allowed the coronavirus thing to settle down, and the people were able to get back to work and start making a wage to buy their own food. So that program went off to the side and sat. We also, at the same time, while we were doing the 6,000 bags, I didn't mention, we put together 300 bags, and those were about 60-pound bags, but they were corn seed, bean seed, fertilizer, insecticide, and were sent up to the mountains to the people that had 1 to 3 acres of land to plant. And off of those plantings, those people were able then to pull seed out for the next planting for the next school year, next year, along with seed to buy fertilizer and insecticide, feed themselves and feed some of their neighbors. And that's an ongoing program now. That's the self-sustaining itself. After that feeding program was done, which ended in about, let's see, that'd be August, we moved into other projects to keep the kids busy. If the kids aren't busy, they're going to find something to do, and there's probably usually going to be trouble. So we had 7 pine trees up above the vocational building that needed to come out because they were leaning towards the building and on the side of a hill. Not a good situation. So we had them busy for about a week and a half, pulling the trees down, cutting them up, and then pushing them down to log them off to the side. We'll have them cut them up into lumber a little bit later on once they've air dried. Other projects we had the girls doing and some of the boys is cleaning up the building inside after we got done with all the food. They went through from basically top to bottom, and cleared everything off. Everything in the building is on casters, so we moved everything off to one side, cleaned half of it, and then moved the equipment back and then cleaned the other half. Some of the other cement projects we finished up around the building because of water erosion and the water that they get there. Usually our rainfall's there when it comes, and there's a rainy season. It usually comes in 4 to 5 inches sometimes at a clip. And so we had some water erosion areas, so we had to put some concrete in to take care of those issues. Now, that pretty much finished out the school year, or I should say the year itself, until when we left in September. What I'm looking at for this next coming year, 2021, I am hoping that the program will be able to start back up in their February start school year time. And I think it will, because the government, I think, is going to get the kids and the teachers back, unless the coronavirus hits us hard again. We're looking at 2 classes per day with the advanced class in the afternoon. Both classes will be taught by the INFOP vocational teacher. And I'm looking at the students getting them to work on projects in Guayamaca again with the school and the feeding centers. We still need more student desks, storage shelves, sheet pens, and then looking at the second feeding school center build coming up. And that.
Right now there's about 60 feeding centers up in the mountains.
Yes, there's about 60 feeding villages up there in the mountains. Not all of them have a building for schooling or for the feeding center. There's about 30 of them that are needed. So this is going to be an ongoing thing for years coming up, but that feeding center allows them to function properly. It allows the kids to get an education and allows them to sustain themselves. Good. Okay, Karen.
The area that I work in is teaching life skills with activities and through counseling. We have built an activity center and where I work with children 0 to 5 years old and their caregivers and parents and their mothers, doing everyday life skills, and learning psychoeducational things to help them with their relationships and learning how to live. Okay. The Activity Center has space for us to work. We're learning how to take care of ourselves, how to sit down and eat a snack quietly, how to wash our hands, how to walk in a line orderly. All these are skills that we don't think about them as skills and what they do for us, but they teach our children how to think and how to organize themselves.
Okay.
Yeah. Inside, we do a lot of things with using big muscles. Our body needs to learn how to coordinate itself, and you work with the big muscles first, so that you can move yourself from one place to another, running, walking, playing instruments, figuring out how your body works. Also, we do small muscle activities with your hands, teaching your mind to coordinate with your hands, what you're doing, thinking and planning, and all those things that help us make decisions. Train up a child in the way he should go, and even when he is old, he will not depart from it. And that's what we're trying to do. One of the most important things is building relationships. Honduras is a place that has many, many broken families. Most families have a mom and the father. There's several different fathers for the children that are in the family, and they're usually not present. So at the orphanage, we try to teach relationships, that relationships are important. God created us to be in relationships and to help each other. And that's our focus, in helping one another.
In Honduras, there's over 300 plus orphanages, and it goes back to the breakup of the family structure that's in Honduras right now. That's the cause of it.
We teach teamwork starting really young, how to work together, how to plan something, how to have a goal together. Problem solving, how to put things together, how to figure out what went wrong, how to figure out what you can do to make a change. We try to offer things for them to experiment with that they don't usually have in their environment. Play is not something that most Honduran children do, other than running around, playing soccer, playing in the dirt. And so we provide activities for them to experiment. Emotional self-regulation is another important thing that we need to teach our children. When you have a family and things don't go your way, you work it out in the family. In Honduras, they work it out with a machete. So we're trying to teach a different way, how to control your emotions, how to use your emotions to do the right thing, how to use your emotions to make things better for yourself and for others. Who you are is really important to God. God he numbers the hairs on your head. He knows who you are. And a lot of these kids don't know who they are. They don't get to see themselves. They don't get to have an identity. And so we try to help them discover who they are and the important things that they can do and the important things that they can learn. Teaching leaders is another important area that I work with. This young lady has a son who's, I think he's 8 years old right now. And she's been working with me the past year in the activity center with the little kids, learning to set things up, learning to help them to do things, not do them for them, but to show them how to do it and let them learn how to do it. Smile.
Oh. Okay.
Oh, this past year we hired a psychologist who has been working with me to provide psychoeducational groups and activities. Just before we came back in September, we had groups for teaching about bullying and how bullying is not a good thing to do. She worked with all the boys and girls between the ages of 13 and 21, talking about bullying. We talked to about 220 kids. Having the psychologist there has been really an important step for Emmanuel, and she is doing counseling, one-on-one counseling with some of the kids. We have also encouraged Emmanuel to hire another psychologist who is also working with kids in the school. So it's been an exciting year to see that happen. The next thing that we would like to see happen is the child development specialist being brought in to do the things that I'm doing. Only it would be good if she's Honduran, he or she is Honduran, so that she can reach them where they're at, know them better than I can know them, because culture is such an important thing for anyone, their culture and how they learn and how they do things. And so we're looking to hire another person in the year to come.
That's been our goal in our ministry from the beginning, is to help them develop the ministry, get it going, get the Hondurans trained to take the ministry over, that we can back ourselves out and help from the sideline just for support, but let the Hondurans run it. And we're getting at a point now with both of our ministries that that's happening.
We'd like to thank you all for your support of us, for your support financially and for your prayers. We couldn't do what we're doing without your support. It takes a village, and you're our village to help with the things that are going on at Orphanage Emmanuel. And we really appreciate everything that you've done.